Pauline Giselle. Welcome to Soul to Bake Club. Thank you. I'm so glad we're sitting down today. This is from Bali. We are at Pauline's beautiful home. So first of all, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Well, if we wouldn't be in Bali, there's barely any ovens here, I would bake you a pastry that I think embodies you. So if we are doing this again at any point of time and I have an oven, this is going to happen. But for now, there's some truffles for you that we had a couple days ago.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Now, Pauline is not only a friend, you are a hormone and female cycle expert. And let me begin with this topic is so important, and I cannot even begin to frame my gratitude and my excitement that you're here today with me talking about this, because I myself in life have discovered how tricky it can be to have this female body without knowing anything about it. And it took me so long to learn about it. And there's so little information out there. So this is really important for me personally, and I'm sure it's going to relate to so many women and men listening to this.
For sure. Thanks for having me. And yeah, it's my passion to talk about this and my mission in the world. So yeah, I agree. It is the most essential knowledge and wisdom that we need to know as women, and so good for men to know as well.
How did your journey with hormones, with your cycle begin?
I would say it all started when I got my period. even before, but I wanted to be the healthiest person I could be. And that's because my father told me at a very, very young age, maybe 7, 8 years old, that since his mother died of breast cancer at 38 years old, he said, Pauline, you have to take care of yourself. You have to be healthy so that you don't get breast cancer and die young, like my mother did. So I always had this like black cloud above me of just like, oh my gosh, I need to prevent this as much as possible. So how can I be the healthiest person possible? Oh, I'll be a doctor, because we go to doctors to, for health advice. And I got my period around 13 years old, and I had debilitating cramps that went all the way down my legs, my lower back, and my period would last 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long. So half of the month.
Half the month. And I thought, I cannot live half the month, half my life in pain like this. I'll go to the doctor. And so I went to the clinic, and the doctor said,
May I ask, where did you live back then?
Oh,
I was not in Bali.
Yeah,
right?
no. Yeah. I grew up in Oregon in the US. I went to the clinic, and the doctor told me, oh, you don't need a period. Women don't need periods. It's for old time's sake. But here, just take the pill. So since I wanted to be a doctor, I was praising this doctor, and I said, anything you say, science knows. We're smarter than nature. So I went on, I finished high school. I went on to university. I studied pre-med. In the US, we do 4 years of, biology, chemistry, organic chemistry, anatomy, physiology. So I did that. Those are the first 4 years. I graduated, and then I went on to medical school. And there, actually, I would sneak into the classes because I was like, is this really what I want to do? It's so expensive in the US and so stressful. Already, I was super stressed out during university studying pre-medicine. I was barely sleeping, and I ended up developing psoriasis, which is an autoimmune disease, and was just, it already didn't make sense to me that us medical students were the most stressed out and the least healthy due to that.
Quite ironic.
Yeah. So I actually would sneak into the medical school classes in my 5th year, and all we were learning about was what pill to give. And I would raise my hand, and I would ask, but why does this person have diabetes? And the professor said, you don't need to know that. You just need to know what pill to give. Yeah. So that's when I was like, this is not health. I'm out. And I'm so glad I did not spend the hundreds of thousands of dollars and stress and energy into the pharmaceutical industry. It's not even medical school. It's pharmaceutical industry. So I left and I went traveling. I went backpacking around South America, Central America. I made my way to the Pacific Islands where my family lives in New Caledonia. And then I finally made it to Australia, and I loved like this life. I was like, wow, I'm living the dream life. I'm working remotely only a couple hours a day, and I'm traveling the world. And then I just got to Australia, and I'm living on the beach, and I just met an Australian guy, and we started dating, and it was the dream life. But there was something inside of me that felt so disconnected and sad. And I felt very like, why am I not being grateful? Why am I not happy? I have this amazing life, and I just fell in love, and I'm not satisfied, or I'm not happy inside. And I was still taking the pill. This had been like 10 years now that I've been taking the pill. And at one point I even took the implant in my arm.
I have that too.
And I just bled for 6 months straight.
I barely ever bled. I had the implant. I barely ever have.
Really? Yeah. I just bled for 6 months straight. And my boyfriend at the time wouldn't make love to me if I was bleeding. So it was just terrible. So, yeah, my Australian boyfriend suggested to me, well, why don't you come off the pill? And I thought, you know what? It's time. I consider myself, wanting to connect more with nature and just being more natural in general. And this is the only thing left, pretty much, that I'm still doing that's just not aligned with my morals, let's say. So that was 6 months into our relationship. I just quit like that. One day to the next, I just stopped taking the pill. And that's when I went through a year of depression, and I lost half my hair. So already I was depressed, and then I was even more depressed. And I had no idea what was going on. Like, none. I was just, why am I so sad? And just ruminating in my head, like, why am I this way? Why am I so depressed? And crying for no reason, even though I had the most beautiful day, doing my favorite things. And about a year later, my boyfriend's sister-in-law showed me an app, like a cycle app. And she's like, Pauline, that we have these cycles, and that we these 4 phases, and that we feel different, and that we need different foods and exercises, and like according to your cycle. And I was just like, mouth open, mind blown, like, what? How did I take 4 years of anatomy and physiology, biology, chemistry, and have, friends at school and a homeopathic dad and a mother? And how has this not ever been a topic of conversation ever in my entire life at the age of 26 at that time?
Yeah, I feel that in my whole body.
I was astonished. I was seriously just like, wow. But also it lit up this light bulb in my head, and just in my heart as well. It became my new passion and obsession, and wow, I became that medical student that I always wanted to be. I became this health advocate that I always wanted to be. And yeah, I was just, and I still do to this day, I love researching about hormones and cycles. And it has been like this for the past 7 years, of just every single day, what's going on in my cycle, what's going on in other people's cycles. And yeah, and how do our hormones affect our brain, our metabolism, our immune system, our gut microbiome, our stress response system, and our sexual reproductive system. So those are the 6 vital systems. But then they also affect our energy, our emotions, our thought patterns, who we desire as a partner in each phase of our cycle. It literally is connected to every single thing, and how we interact with the world, and how the world interacts with us.
Yeah. If I may quote you, right? You told me hormones are the ego. Yeah. I heard that for the first time when I think it was an Instagram post that you did. And I was like, wow, yes. It's been such a revelation to notice how I'm being driven by my body, right? By my nature. And I think thank you for sharing that story, because once again, it relates to one of the Rumi quotes that I cherish so deeply. The wound is where the light comes in. Right? So these years of struggling, of feeling, I don't know if incomplete is a proper word, but to feel like there's something lacking, a piece of information to this entire life. We struggle so often, but mostly it's exactly there where we find something that lights up our entire life.
Totally.
Yeah. And now, so how long was that ago when you were in Australia? How many years?
7 years ago, almost
7 years.
ago.
The 7 year cycle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And now you are here in Bali. You are leading a successful program with women where you teach them about the cycle, right? And about how it changes their bodies, their lives, their mental structure, their emotional structure. Can we talk about that for a little bit? What would you tell the women out there? How are they affected by what's within?
Well, everything. So I guess I can use my program as a guide, or like what the reason why I structured it that way. But basically, my program is 3 months long, and that's because scientifically it takes 3 months to balance your hormones and balance progesterone. And this is why we do trimester 0, which is the optimizing of the sperm and egg quality before conceiving, so that because it takes 3 months to do so. So um, in the first month, and this is what you'll find in apps and a lot on the internet and whatnot, is how to eat with your cycle, because we have these 4 different phases of our cycle.
Let's begin there.
Yeah. And the 4 different phases of our cycle are menstruation, which is your inner winter. They're like the 4 seasons. So menstruation, when you're bleeding, should be 3 to 6 days, a nice red flow, no big clots, and not painful.
That's such a big point. Like, just to pause here for a moment, how many of us take it as natural that we have this pace within these 3 or 6 days, having our periods? Like, so many women, and me included, right? For the longest time, I thought that was normal. I thought that was how it's supposed to be. It's not.
Women are not burdened to live in pain every single month. Like, who put that in our minds that we are supposed to suffer every single month? Yeah, it is. No, totally. Like, how we function in this world, or how society is built, is based off the patriarchal society of having a daily structure, the circadian rhythm. Men's cycles, hormone cycles, are based off the sun, 24 hours.
4 hours.
And women are based off the moon cycle, which is 29 days long. And
that's how our world is constructed.
Yeah.
It's not due to a woman's cycle.
No. It's the daily cycle of you wake up, you're productive, you work, you do this and that, and you feel guilty if you don't work and don't do anything. And
you feel guilty if you don't feel as productive every day, which we are bound to as women. We cannot feel as happy, energized, as vitalized every day.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, whenever you're feeling disconnected or in pain or super emotional or super, having acne, having bloating, cramping, fatigue, depression, anxiety, anything where you just don't feel good, that means something is out of balance. Your hormones are out of balance. And they are your body's signals and communication tools with you that something is out of balance. And so, this is what I tell my students is like, use these like signals as like a form of gratitude that your body's trying to communicate with you to bring you back to yourself and back into balance. Like, it's really important to see that way instead of feeling a victim of the pains and the suffering that you might have every single month. So, coming back to menstruation being your inner winter, it being, you feel the movement, you feel that something's happening within your uterus because it is, your uterus is going from double its size to a singular size and
Wow.
pumping blood out.
From double its size.
Yeah, right before your period, your uterus is double its size. And at the end of pregnancy, it's 500 times its size. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's it's the strongest muscle in the body.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm so wowed by our bodies over and over again.
Uh-huh.
How cool is that? Okay.
So menstruation, then after menstruation, so during menstruation, our hormones are the lowest. Estrogen is the lowest, progesterone and all the hormones are the lowest. And then after menstruation, then we enter the follicular phase, and that's your inner spring. And that should last about 7 to 10 days. And you're starting to feel like, wow, I'm out of my cave. I have so many ideas. You're thinking more in the future. And your body's becoming more feminine as it's approaching ovulation, because ovulation is the one day that you are fertile. One day, everyone.
One day. There's one day out of the month that you can get pregnant.
Yeah. But but sperm can live inside of you for up to 5 days. So we have a fertile window, let's say, of a week that, if you're planning on preventing or planning pregnancy, then you're basing this off this 1 week window.
Yeah.
But yeah, this while your insides are becoming more feminine, more yin, your boobs are becoming perkier, your face more symmetrical, your lips are becoming more plump, so are your lower lips. Your voice is becoming higher, and you're speaking like more feminine, and you're speaking more eloquently and more articulated, and yeah, everything is making you smarter, sexier, stronger, healthier. It's the gut healing phase. You can learn things more easily during this time. It's doing everything possible during this week leading up to your ovulation so that you are magnetizing your mate during ovulation.
Yeah.
And
isn't that the point of our cycle where we feel championed as women, right? That's that part where we become smarter, more beautiful, and so often I come across those inner judgments, and I'm like, okay, this is where the first few days here, or let's say that phase until ovulation, this is where we would like to stay, right? This is what our culture, our society, this is what we've been championed to be. And the other parts, the luteal phase and the menstrual phase, that's what we would like to shove out. But of course, that's not healthy.
Yeah. And this is what I teach my students, is how to love all phases of your cycle, not just the time when you're feeling more positive and extroverted and, more confident, because even your confidence levels change throughout your cycle. So, so coming back to this like inner yin, so your body's becoming more feminine, the activities that you have to do on the outside are more masculine qualities. So you're thinking in the future, you're setting goals, you're having a direction, you're working out, going to the gym, weightlifting and just challenging yourself, because your capacity to handle stress is actually bigger, and it helps you grow when you, just like muscles, if you are working out, you're ripping your muscle a little bit, but then it gets reconstructed, and that makes you stronger. So this is what we do in our follicular phase leading up to ovulation. And during ovulation, you can feel the high for maybe 3 to 4 days. It's your inner summer. You're eating more lightly, like more summer foods. And you're also less hungry. You're less hungry as you even begin menstruation all the way to ovulation. You become less and less hungry because your body's just, it's using its own stored fat and energy to focus on finding that mate. So then we enter the luteal phase. And one last thing about ovulation. Ovulation is the vital sign that you're healthy. So if you are taking hormonal birth control, you're not ovulating. Even if you take the copper IUD, you are not ovulating every time. You can sometimes, but it's not guaranteed. Yeah. Even the copper IUD, even though it's non-hormonal, it still affects your hormones. by suppressing your immune system, and it causes a chronic inflammation in your uterus. You have higher levels of copper, and which means your zinc levels are lower because copper and zinc are fighting for the same place. And yeah, there's a lot of issues that can come with the copper IUD, even though it's non-hormonal as well.
And can we pause here for a moment and speak about when you're taking the pill, you are bleeding, right? But that's not a natural bleed because you're not ovulating.
Yeah, exactly. These are called withdrawal bleeds. And just like the pill or the implant or any other form of birth control, hormonal birth control, you have a withdrawal bleed. And sometimes I even did this, but I just continued to take the pill so that I wouldn't even have the withdrawal bleed. And it's just a placebo effect of your brain and the doctor's telling you it's going to regulate your cycle. But hormonal birth control, it chemically induces menopause. It literally just shuts off all of your hormones. And I don't even like saying chemically inducing menopause that much, but it basically, because menopause is another phase of life that's so beautiful and taboo as well. But it does do this where it just shuts off your hormones so that they're low, and it adds these synthetic chemicals, these synthetic hormones. And so you're not having your natural hormones. You're not optimizing your health. There are so many side effects. When you get a birth control pill list of, the paper that comes with it, it's like this massive map. And with all these side effects and you're just like, why is this paper so huge? But there are so many side effects. Some of them are, it stunts your brain development. It stunts bone and muscle growth. It decreases the size of your clitoris by 20%.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
Because it will decrease your libido. It does everything possible for you not to reproduce. So that makes you not healthy and make you not want to have sex either. No pleasure for you. I'll decrease the pleasure spot by 20%, decrease the libido. It will also, change your smell, your sense of smell, so that you can't find your suitable partner. Because when you hug someone and you're like, oh, I love that smell, and then some other people are like, oh, I don't like the body smell. And that's your body's way of telling you that you're a good match or not.
Yeah.
And
I noticed that a lot in my partners. There were men where I always felt like, this might seem gross to some people, but even when they were sweaty, I was like, yes. Yes, please.
Yeah, I take my husband's arm and I just lift it and smell his armpit. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, I love it. So it changes your sense of smell. You can't find your suitable partner. It also decreases the absorption of nutrients. So your gut, it can't absorb nutrients well. And it also, you have like more than 90% chance of having irritable bowel syndrome and leaky gut, which is when the cellular walls of the intestinal lining are separated, and then just food and toxins can get through that. And gosh, so many other things.
This goes on and on.
Yeah, this goes on and on.
But how come nobody tells you that?
Well, I would say it's not something doctors are also learning.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's not blaming Western medicine, right? Because bless Western medicine. It's really, really, really important. And I'm at no place to say that was bad in any way. But it's about education. It's about education in both ways, right? What can we, all the blessings that also the pharmaceutical industry brought us in ways, but then we're totally suppressing the other side, and that's why it's taking over and it's becoming so toxic, right?
Yeah,
the natural side of it.
Exactly, and it is really suppressing of the woman and how we can thrive in this world. And this is what I see. For me, it's like, wow, men can thrive, and I want women to thrive too. Like, I want all of us to thrive. I don't want just men thriving and women taking a pill so that we have the rhythm of the man, so that we don't have periods. We're not complaining. We're just like going on with our day and we're working. And this is something it's the biggest scam in the world.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, it
Yeah.
is so detrimental and suppressing of women, the pill and hormonal birth control. It's mind-blowing to me how much it affects overall women and men, because birth control doesn't, it goes into the water system and it's actually in your tap water. It doesn't get filtered out. So we're all taking synthetic hormones by drinking tap water.
Okay.
And yeah,
It's wild. And heartbreaking.
it is.
Heartbreaking. And if we take it one step further, yes, hormonal birth control, it prevents you from being healthy and functioning in your natural way. But also when I, as a woman, do not know about those 4 phases in my month, right? Even then, I cannot thrive because I will always hold myself to different standards that are absolutely not, I'm not able to fulfill them just because I am a woman, right?
Yeah.
So just learning about those 4 phases brings out almost a superpower in
It
women.
is. It really is a superpower, and the most empowering thing you can hold is to know and understand, and it's mind-blowing as to why we don't learn about this in school.
Yeah.
You know, we're learning about things outside of us and how to work for other people and how to do things for, you know, others, which is also, you know, it's good. But we know nothing about what's going on, how our brain works, how our bodies work, how to be the healthiest, you know, version of ourselves. But that's how, you know, how people make businesses is off the, like, you know, especially the pharmaceutical industry, is to keep people sick.
Yeah.
And there is not one single pharmaceutical drug that has no negative side effects. It will always come with a negative side effect, and it will just, it's a band-aid. It hides the symptoms, but it's not treating the root cause. And if anything, it's making things worse while you're not feeling them, and it does disconnect you from who you really are. And so this is what I love about my work is helping women coming off birth control, because it is a reawakening. It is a rediscovering of the self. And like, you know, we talked about briefly, is that hormones are the ego. They are your identity. So when you are taking synthetic hormones, it's not you. It's not you. And you realize, like, oh my God, I've been dating 10 years and the guys that I've been with have been toxic and not even the right one for us, you know, and we're always searching for love. And we've just, you know, but we can't regret this. It's something that I had to work through as well. It's just like, well, that's the choice I made at the time. It was the best informed choice I made, because the doctor, you know, we put such a high status for the doctor that they know everything, and that's who we go to for health advice. But doctors are not the healthiest people. There's very few, you know, but
It's just an authority figure of some kind.
exactly, that learned how to prescribe pharmaceutical drugs. So, yeah, the whole birth control thing is the biggest scam, but also, you know, it makes me so passionate, and there needs to be yin and yang in this world, evil and light, and I'm here to, like, it gives me I'm so grateful for the pharmaceutical industry, because it brings me that much more passion and mission for what I'm doing in this life. So I can't, you know, fully blame them for everything, but yeah, it's this fight for nature and trust and love and authenticity that I'm fighting for. So yeah,
I still remember when I went off birth control. I didn't even know why. But as I mentioned before, I did not receive my period. Maybe every 6 months there would be a small bleed, and I had the implant, which, for everybody not knowing, that sits in your lower fatty tissue, and it releases subtle amounts of hormones in a more frequent way, right? And I, by that time, was super, super happy about it. Like, I thought of that as a relief to not have my period. Like, okay, don't have to deal with that. Cool. Right? And I think I was 17 when I went on, and almost 9 years I had that implant. So that's almost a decade under those influences, right?
Yeah.
Almost a decade of not really knowing who I was, but just like kind of stumbling around trying to find answers. And at some point there was this, I will say it was an inner voice that was just, it was getting stronger and stronger, and it just told me to get off. And I had no idea about all of what we're talking so far. So back then I just learned to listen to my intuition, and I had it, it's a small operation to get it out, and I had it removed before the time was even ended. And everybody was asking me why. I was like, why would you do this? You are sexually active. What is your thoughts on that? And I faced quite some critique. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I just cannot have it anymore. Even though I did not have any negative consequences that were obvious to me. Let's say it that way. And I remember that day when I was at the hospital. They just took it out. I was walking through the hallway, and it was like, hospital fluorescent lights and like a really suppressing environment. But I felt this wave of relief. It felt like something within me was unleashed, and I could finally breathe. And that was so liberating.
Yeah.
I have goosebumps. Yeah, and ever since, it took quite a while to receive my period back. Also before that, I did not have a regular cycle because I got my cycle rather late in my teen years. There was a time where I was anorexic, so I received my period really late, and then I went on birth control. So all of a sudden I was mid-20, and I've never had a cycle.
Yeah.
So that was a pivotal point in my life, I will say. Ever since, it was a boost of becoming more confident, of really feeling myself and navigating through life in a more authentic way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it really is that you're becoming your authentic self when you come off birth control. Really discovering them.
Okay, so we were during ovulation, right?
Yes.
And then
So now
there's
the
the
luteal
luteal
phase, the one everyone dislikes.
You said you love your
I love my luteal, and honestly, like, I really hold that for like so much gratitude, or with so much gratitude, because I'm 5.5 months pregnant now.
Yay!
And pregnancy is a long luteal phase. And my pregnancy has been so great. Like, I haven't had any sickness. I haven't had any like weird emotional things. I feel like since I've loved my luteal phase and haven't had any like PMS, then my pregnancy has been so well thanks to that. And I know how to take care of myself during pregnancy.
Yeah. And I know that a lot of people will watch this or listen to this and think, wow, you're just one of those lucky ones, right? But no, right? You set yourself up for this. You're working with your natural cycles. You're working with your hormones, with your body chemistry. And that is why you're having a really easy pregnancy.
Yeah, exactly. I do truly believe that. And it's, so the luteal phase is your inner autumn. And this is also the longest phase of our cycle. So again, for me, I guess it's just one of my mottos in life. How can I enjoy this as much as possible? Even if it's a crappy situation, or, half the cycle where you're just like, lower energy and you're feeling more introverted. You don't feel like going out. You feel blah, 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 blah. All the complaints and blaming that we have during the luteal phase, the 2 weeks before our period, and where our hormones think we're pregnant. And this is where the acne comes, and the bloating and the cramping and the depression and all the symptoms that you don't want to feel. Like, those are also abnormal. They're not they are your body's way of communicating with you that something is out of balance. So for me, it's like, okay, well, how do I listen to my body and make the changes to actually surrender into the introversion, and also thinking like, okay, my hormones think I'm pregnant. What would a pregnant woman do? Relax. Yeah. Is she going to do a high intensity CrossFit training right now? No. Some pregnant women do that, but like, it's not recommended. And there's also, a lot of women will feel guilty that they're eating more, but we actually need 200 to 300 more calories during this phase because your hormones think you're pregnant, and you're actually getting your energy from food, not from your stored fat anymore. You're getting energy from food. And yeah, we go more introverted. We're thinking more in the past. And it's really the time of our cycle where your insides are becoming more yang, like yin and yang. And the things you need to do, the activities you need to do are more yin. So more yin yoga, gentle movements. You can still go to the gym, just lower the intensity. And that's what the whole cycle is about, is add more intensity as you're approaching ovulation and lower the intensity when you are in the luteal, and then no intensity when you're on your period. So the luteal phase is really a time to also take advantage of this introversion and work with your shadows. And this is a time when your inner child, so for example, as a part of my program, the first month is the practical stuff with like how to eat with your cycle, how to exercise with your cycle, what your thought patterns and emotional patterns are and how to work with them. That's the first month. And then the second month is going into like pelvic floor health, who you're attracted to or what qualities you're attracted to in a partner in each phase of your cycle. Om cycle yoga. Om cycle is my brand. Om cycle means ovulatory menstrual cycle. And I realized about 5 years ago that our hormone glands are the chakras.
Yes. 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 Oh.
And I love this because it's the scientific reason or like proof that of spirituality. And using your cycle or taking benefit or just like, using your cycle as a guide to your spiritual path it's not just the physical, it's also this guide to your higher self. And so your hormones being the ego, your identity, this flesh suit that we're in that's just trying to make us survive and reproduce. But we also know that there's a higher purpose, that we have this mission and this, that we are separate from our ego. And so we can't take everything so seriously in this physical earthly plane. So yeah, that second month is really about like, okay, the womb space and the connecting to the spirituality and pelvic floor exercises and tantra, how to have a better relationship with yourself, but also with somebody else. And this is something that in my relationship, it is life-changing. And in many people's relationships, because I'm communicating with my partner where I am in my cycle and how I can be supportive. And then they love to step up and to support others. Like that's their mission in their life, is to, how can I be of service? And how can we have this polarity between each other that is understanding and communicative and like, okay, I'm about to get my period. I'm feeling less energy and more hungry, and I just want to stay home and have like a date at home, and cook together versus going out to a club and having dinner in a super loud social environment. Like, let's do that when I'm ovulating.
Yes.
And so he gets to be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what to do when and how to make her happy. And for her, she's so happy because you're working together with your cycle. Because men, you can do things every day, it doesn't matter. You can change things up and whatnot. But for women, it's really important that, we can't.
We just can't. Full stop.
And if we do, then it makes our hormones unhappy, and then it's going to give you sore breasts and period cramps and super moody and just irritability and all that stuff.
And so all of a sudden, the education of our natural cycles becomes crucial for health of ourselves, but also the world around us, which includes our relationships, right? And I've also, for the first time now, I am with a partner who is deeply interested in supporting me in that way. It's a totally different layer of intimacy that this has created, because all of a sudden I feel so safe. I feel so supported. And I've had many relationships with men where I felt like I had to put up a mask, a show, right? I had to, again, serve to this idea of me being the same the same every day, which is just not possible. So I just want to say I highly recommend educating all of the people around you, right? So this, once again, this conversation is not just for women; it's for people of all genders.
Yeah, all genders, all ages.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not a 2-year-old, but but yeah, with the young girls and even menopausal women and just so it creates such a much more compassion and empathy and understanding and not taking things personally and the miscommunication. You're not like judging the other person or it just allows for so much less stress, which is hormone balancing because we always want to be lowering the stress. And the things that are causing these symptoms in the luteal phase, especially the PMS symptoms, is because we have, there's 5 different types of stressors. Because whenever you think stress, it's like, oh no, I'm not actually that stressed. And you just think, oh, I don't have much work, I'm not thinking too much. But what if you're exercising too much every single day, or you're drinking coffee every single day, or processed sugar? Like, that's digestive stress. Physical stress would be like over exercising. Many athletes actually lose their periods. I actually had a student once who she came to me because she's like, I haven't had my period in like a year and a half, and what's wrong? And like, I'm not stressed. I love what I'm doing. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? She's like, well, I wake up and I have 2 coffees in the morning, and then I go work out for 4 hours. And I'm like, yep, that's why. And even though you love it, it's so detrimental, so stressful on your body. And within 1 month of my program, she got her period back.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is another insane story. Just a couple months ago, a student of mine, she's a gynecologist, even. So she's studied medicine and she's a gynecologist. And she was on the pill also for quite a long time, many years. And hasn't had her period back since stopping the pill. And this is something you were saying too. It took you a while to get your period back. And so it had been 3 years and 8 months for her. And she still hadn't gotten the period back. And she went to India. She actually met another student of mine in an ashram and said, oh, you have to join Pauline's program. And she got her period back in the 3 months of the program. Yeah.
That is so rewarding to hear those stories, right?
It's possible. And this is what I love about having trust in the female body. It is truly like, I know so many women will feel like, no, well, I've never had a period. I've always been like this. And, you get stuck in this victim mode. And I've been there. I've been a victim. And it's, at the time you're just receiving that attention for being a victim. But it's manipulative. It's a way, you can be a narcissistic person manipulating, but you can also be a victim, victim manipulator as well, and get things you want by being a victim. And that's also not a good way to go. How can you be more empowered and take care and responsibility for yourself and your health and your life when you know your cycle and you know what phase you're in and you know what you want, what your boundaries are, and how you want to be loved and how you want to love as well.
Yeah.
So, and that's a big part of the 3rd month of the program is that connection of the inner child and what are your inner limiting beliefs. And if these emotional, like, oh, I just get really angry before my period, is like, what is that? How can we go in there and connect with that anger? And it often is connected to your inner child that felt suppressed, because we all grew up with maybe parents saying like, stop crying, stop yelling, and we're not allowing ourselves to express. So we just keep getting shut down because, again, society tells us we need to be quiet, sit in our chair, just listen, don't do anything, don't express yourself.
That then comes magnitude of women who are feeling stuck and who don't know how to get out of this situation, out of these emotional patterns. And I do believe it starts with that concept of agency. I have agency. I can change. And even though we are living in a world, and that's a fact, where all these informations we're talking about, this information, it's not out there. Like, nobody tells that until you meet people, and that's what's so beautiful about your story as well. Fellow women, right? Women supporting women and having these conversations and informing and educating people of all kinds, that we have agency, that we can change, and that we're not, there's nothing wrong with us. We just have to learn what's really important in what phase of our cycle.
Yeah, and needed and needs support. And yeah, totally. So it's, yeah. And speaking of emotions, there's even this whole topic of emotional gynecology. So, which is basically what emotions are getting manifested into gynecological problems. And this is another like topic in my program, because it's so important to understand as well. Like, why do I have endometriosis? And endometriosis is when your endometrial lining, so like the inner uterus, you know, it's what's growing the blood basically for you to shed at the end of the month, is growing on the outside of the uterus. So the emotional meaning of endometriosis is you crossing your boundaries and you're people pleasing, and you're not doing things for yourself. You're crossing your boundaries. PCOS and having cysts is when you're holding on to emotions. You're not allowing yourself to express. So it's creating these cysts that is just holding on to stuff. Then we have like, what else? I mean, viruses like herpes and things like that, that they all have their things. So yeah, emotions will get manifested, and oftentimes like science, Western medicine doesn't take into account emotions and stress. And like, what are your stressors? So yeah, we did speak about digestive stress, physical stress, mental stress, of course, we all know about. But there's also emotional stress. Are you in a toxic relationship? Are you, what's going on emotionally? But also it could be something like a parent just died, or someone really close to you just passed away, and you're feeling so much grief, and that's nothing on you, and that will affect your hormones, and that's okay. We do need to feel our emotions. It's so important to acknowledge and observe and feel and let go of our emotions, but we cannot hold on to it and continue again being a victim, or just like holding on to this and blaming the world because of that happened and blah blah blah. It's like you said, taking agency of your life, and but it's really important to work on the emotional aspect. And it's super important. And this is why as well I add in Chinese medicine and Ayurveda within my program, because those medicines have been around for thousands of years, and they have observed and noticed and proven that emotions are super important to take care of, and your environment, which is the last stressor, is your environmental stress. So are you using plastic? Are you drinking out of plastic water bottles? Are you using pans that have the non-stick stuff like Teflon? Are you surrounded by agriculture where they're spraying pesticides or burning a lot of things like plastics, especially? The clothes that you're wearing, do they have spandex or nylon or polyester? Fragrances, anything in your like shampoo, conditioner, or soaps, or laundry detergent that says fragrance or perfume in it, that is a huge hormone disruptor. Yeah. And it's everywhere. Or air fresheners, like literally anything that's synthetic goes against nature and affects your hormones in a negative way.
That is such a big revelation, right? That we are so affected by things that we think are normal, but we are affected by the clothes that we're wearing, and obviously what we put into our body. So I'm wondering, for women and men listening, I know that it can get quite overwhelming, right? Once you read into that topic, once you realize what is affecting you, it can be quite an overwhelm. It's like, okay, I gotta change this and that, and wow, I basically can't do anything anymore. And where I'm living, should I move? Shall I not eat anything anymore? Like, it can become quite a big stressor as well to live in a healthy way, right? So for people who are at the beginning of their journey with that, what would you say are simple changes that everybody could make, and what is most important?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question because it is overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know, like the normal and modern human is going to use all the things that were advertised in the store of like, you need this shampoo, you need this soap, you need this whatever it may be, and always come back to nature. Does it come from the earth? And if not, then probably not good for you. And if it is, then yeah. But it's step by step. Step by step is super important. And that's also why my program is 3 months long, because it's not just a one-time thing that you could just learn the information and then get overwhelmed. And yeah, you can, do things step by step still, but it is, it's step by step. Do start with what is easiest for you. I did have a student once actually who had really painful periods, and she did everything in my program except her craving of candy.
Oh.
And yeah, it's processed foods, so and like processed sugar. And I'm like, you got to get rid of that. And she did everything, and at the end of the 3 months, she was still having painful periods. And she's like, okay, I'm not going to let my money go to waste. This is the last thing. She stopped eating candy, and then she had the most beautiful menstruation she's ever had in her life. No pain, and just really connected to source. And yeah, and it can be things like that. But coffee is a big one.
I saw your Instagram post on that. I was like, ah.
Yeah, it's a huge one because it puts us in fight or flight. It puts us in stress survival mode, and your body is always going to go for surviving first, because if you don't survive, you can't reproduce.
Right.
And we are nature. We are a part of this life cycle. And yeah, your body is always going to go into survival mode before anything else. And that's why fertility rates have gone down by 50% in the last 50 years. 50% in the last 50 years. Yeah. Sperm egg quality, like people, there's so many issues with fertility, and your fertility is your health. Health is fertility. So when you're optimizing your health, you're optimizing your fertility. And when you're optimizing your fertility, you're optimizing your health. They're one and the same. A lot of times people think fertility, it means like, oh, I'm trying to get pregnant. No, it is your health.
I was wondering when I saw that Facebook post or that Instagram post where you talked about coffee and how it's putting you into that fight or flight. Way, of course, that's like our hormones rise and they fall, right? But how is it for people who have a naturally low baseline, for example, a low baseline of estrogen, a low baseline of steroid hormones, right? Like, I do love that we can read those patterns, but then also some people have also probably due to outer influences, but some people have such different baselines, right? And some people might need a little bit of an extra push in the morning to even get going, to just function, not even to be over that line, overly active, but just to function. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I feel like that baseline is their normal, and that something needs to change, because being super tired to the point of just like I can barely get out of bed is not normal. So something needs to change. It means that it's fatigue. It means that something needs to change. There's a hormonal imbalance. So whether it's nutritionally, and oftentimes this is a huge topic as well, is the plant-based diet. And vegans and vegetarians are nutrient deficient most of the time. There's so many nutrients, like seriously about a list of 20 to 30 things that are not present or lower in plant foods. And this is something after 5 years of working in this industry and speaking to hundreds of women and just seeing, I can just say I've never met a vegan or that was hormonally balanced, that didn't have any issues. None. Like it's just And this is also why in Ayurveda and in Chinese medicine that they say like, yeah, eat meat, you know. Maybe in Ayurveda they say no cow, but because the cow is holy. But other than that, like this is the yin essence, and women, we need substance. And you even have a higher chance of miscarriage if you're vegan or vegetarian.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important to honor that. And many women will say to me like, well, I don't want to suffer. I don't want animals to suffer. And I'm like, yeah, but then you're suffering too. And also you can respect and choose the source where you're sourcing your meat from. Like, get it from a farm that raises their animals well, that they're not putting them in cages and injecting them with hormones and antibiotics and things like that. Like, you have that autonomy to support the farms that are treating the soil and the animals correctly and well. And that as well, to me, I'm like, you know, if I am getting nourished from these animals, like, thank you. And I always have a blessing for my food as well before eating. Like, thank you, animal. Thank you, farmers. Like, thank you, Pachamama, Mother Earth. You know, that's really important to have that gratitude because, yeah, of course, like, ideally we wouldn't want to have anyone die, but death is a part of life as well. And if they can support me into doing more good into the world, then that's how I see it as well. Of just like, thank you for the immense amount of energy that you give me. Because it is that, you know, if you're completely vegan, then you're not having enough energy. And I mean, you'll see people on the internet, like muscle builders that are vegan and whatnot, but
the question is, for how long is that sustainable?
Yeah.
Right. I absolutely love the quote or that conversation that you shared with me when we had lunch the other day. That conversation that you had with a Buddhist monk. Would you share that here?
So I this is something I've always thought is just like, oh, if you want to go super spiritual, then go vegan because, then you're not taking care of your sexual health, your reproductive health, your fertility, because usually really spiritual people, they're celibate, they're like, nope, I'm by myself. It's me and my connection with God. And so I was in Japan last month, and I really love Zen Buddhism. We went to go see a Buddhist monk, and I asked him, do you eat meat? And he said, if my body needs it. And wow, tell me more. He's like, if you want to go super spiritual people don't care about their health. They just want their connection with God. But if this is something that Buddha, if you see statues of Buddha, he will always have his eyes halfway open or halfway closed. And this is because we cannot completely disconnect ourselves from this reality. Always have your eyes halfway open when meditating because you are still a part of this reality. Stop trying to escape the fact that you are a human and you are part of this human experience. So if your body is asking for more energy and for nourishment, then you need to eat, and you need to eat yin and nourishing foods, which tend to be animal products. And see that as like a co-creative, symbiotic relationship that we do have with animals, you know, and treat it as sacred. Treat it as best as you can and most loving as you can. But yeah, if you want to go super spiritual, then I'm not here to help you. You know, you have to go into a monastery and become a nun, and you know, that will be your path. But if you want to heal your hormones and feel better and feel healthy, and you give birth one day, and even if you're not planning on giving birth one day, but you want to be the healthiest possible, then you need to change things up and balance your hormones, because they do affect literally every single thing in your life.
What I cherish so much in conversations like that is the different angles, right? You have so many different angles to one, say, problem or anything at all in life. And we so easily put things in a box, right? I mean, I teach these yoga teacher trainings, and we talk about ahimsa, right? We talk about harm. We talk about trying to be non-violent. And of course, there always comes up that conversation of harming animals for nurturing us. But there is no easy way to solve a problem. You can always look at it from this side and from that side. And I appreciate what you're sharing, because it's an aspect that not many people talk about. And it's really easy to get stuck in one point of view, but then opening up to other ways of facing something that we all have to do, eat food, right? Nurture our bodies. I think that is really, really important. You also mentioned endometriosis and other inner struggles that the body has. I've recently, or for the last year, I've been working with my cycle for a couple of years, and for the past year, I had period pains again. And I was like, what is that? I know what to eat. I do adjust my levels of exercise. I have quite a foundational knowledge of what is good for me in what cycle phase. And for a while that has nurtured me and that it has helped me so much. And I just, this week, this is new information and it, yeah, it baffles me. I realized that there is a supplement that I was taking. And now in hindsight, I'm seeing that whenever I took that supplement, I had period pains. When I had little time frames of like 3-4 months when I did not take the supplement, my period pain was gone. Really. But I only now, a friend of mine told me that another woman, I was having that conversation about period pains and hormonal health with her. And she told me, you know, that supplement, I'm not going to say which supplement because I don't want to face legal actions here and I don't know how far it can go. But it was such a stunning revelation of something so tiny in my daily life, right? Something I would do as a daily habit absolutely changes everything. It's just stunning how the body reacts, right? And now the supplement that I was taking is, or it's like a constellation of supplements to drink. It's made for men, right? It's made for the male cycle. Probably, I don't know this. It's not a fact, but I assume it's tested on a lot of men. Yeah. And it is made, like a lot of things in our society, it's made for men. It's made for also, probably also women, but then having women act.
Yeah. Yeah, over 90% of research was done on men. So a lot of things that we are taking or, you know, like, oh, this is good for you, this is bad for you, blah, blah, blah. Do the carnivore diet, do the vegan diet, do the this supplement or whatever. Like, it was based off of research on men. And that's because men can show up every day for, you know, let's say a week to do these lab research testing. And they show up at 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock every day. And for women, it's like, okay, can you show up on day 10 of your cycle? Okay, now you need to show up on the next day 10 of your cycle and the next day 10 of your cycle.
Quite a lot of work.
So it takes a lot more time and money to do research on women. And they're like, oh, they're the same. Let's just, you know, do research on men. And that's it. And also it is easier. It is cheaper to do it on men because also usually it was on military or like army forces because they're eating the same thing, doing the same workouts, you know, having the same routine.
Yeah.
So they would often do it on military men as well. But yeah, over 90% of research was done on men. And we're reading that and doing the things that's based off men. And it's so important to realize that women are different and we're not small men.
Yeah. I also came across an article about a year ago where I read about a pill that they developed for men, right? Hormonal birth control in a pill that has been developed for men. And that's been out there for years and years and years, right? But unfortunately, they always come across side effects like mood swings, right? Like, feeling unwell.
Yeah.
Which is what we do with a pill.
Yeah. But honestly, I don't want men to also take birth control.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, no one.
Fact.
Like, I don't want also men to be skewed and inauthentic and not healthy. You know, we want women and men to be healthy and thriving together in a symbiotic relationship.
Fully agree.
And, not suppressing our health. But yeah, it is it is funny how they did these tests on the male birth control. They're like, oh no, they're complaining about mood swings.
Oh no. Yeah. 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 So there is a lot of articles, a lot of information out there to read, but I do know also from personal experience that it can be overwhelming, which is why it's so beautiful. I can wholeheartedly recommend what you're doing. So if anybody out there who's facing these issues or who's just curious to learn more, Pauline has beautiful programs, offers private sessions. You have this amazing homepage, and check her out. Find her Instagram, Pauline Giselle. There's Om Cycle.
Yeah.
And
balanceyourcycle.com is my website. And yeah, and also just to give you a little hope as well, because we were talking about birth control, is you don't have to get pregnant, and you don't have to take birth control to prevent pregnancy. There are many natural ways of fertility awareness methods, which is also in my program. How to understand your cycle and when you can and cannot sex.
I was going to wrap it up, but this is this is also something that barely anybody knows about. So please, would you just share some brackets of that?
Yeah, it also has a 99% chance of, when used correctly, just like any other form of birth control, of success of not getting pregnant. So the fertility awareness methods are tracking your cervical mucus, your temperature, your basal temperature, which, by the way, you just take under your tongue, not in your vagina. And a lot of women think that, oh no, like I have to do it in my vagina, and you don't. And also that probably means that you need to have a better relationship with your vagina. If you're scared.
Get more intimate with your body, with yourself.
And then the third fertility awareness method is cervical positioning. So your cervix will move up and down throughout your cycle too. So you have 3 different ways of knowing where you are in your cycle, and that also is super empowering. And for your partner to also know, like, because I actually do this workshop for men, and that's on my website as well, how to understand women for men.
Love that.
And one time, because the last time I did this workshop, I'm doing it again here in February, so it'll be ready for you all to watch as well. But the last one I did was 3 years ago and one of the guys said, oh, I didn't realize that when her cervical mucus was white, I thought something was wrong with her. Like, I thought she had a disease or something.
Oh.
And I was like, oh no, honey.
Oh.
It's like the most common type of mucus that we have, in the follicular phase and in the luteal phase. So it's really important for men to know the woman's cycle.
Yes.
But yeah, like, you really, when you know more about yourself, and we can wrap it up with this, when you know more about yourself, it's the most empowering thing, knowing your cycle and which phase you're in and what you can do to support yourself best. And it's the best stress relief to understand yourself, and also just be on this journey of self-discovery. It's like, it's the most mind-blowing, amazing, life-changing, empowering thing is to know about your cycle. And I highly
I fully, wholeheartedly agree. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. Thank you so much for inviting me to your beautiful home. I'm so grateful that we're doing this, because what you are doing, especially, so little people know of it. So it is that important that it takes a ripple effect and more people hear it. All your links, how to find you, I'll put it in the section below this. And a big, wholehearted thank you, Pauline. I love you.
Thank you, Sarah. You too. Thank you, everyone, for having me.